He pointed straight at me like I was the problem. "This old woman only wastes." That's what my son said. Out loud. In front of strangers. January 4th, 10:18 a.m. Clark County Courthouse courtroom. 3C. I didn't get up. I didn't say a word. My hands were in my lap, fingers pressed so tight they turned red. The judge didn't move. The lawyer next to him smiled like this was already won. And maybe it was. I had walked into that room still thinking someone might speak up for me, that he might remember who signed the loan for his first truck, who made sure he could finish college when Arthur got sick. But all I heard was, "She doesn't know what she's doing with the money." Ruth, my lawyer, leaned toward me, whispering, "Let them talk," then louder so the mic caught it. "Mrs. Lorne will respond when asked." I stared at the wooden table in front of me. You ever sit somewhere and feel like the world already decided you're done? That's what it felt like I'd been quietly voted out. What stung worse was the way Genevieve, his wife, nodded along, as if she'd rehearsed this, as if me sitting there silent was part of their argument. I should have seen it sooner, when they helped me set up online banking and I stopped getting paper statements. When they insisted I didn't need to come to the accountant's office anymore. "You just rest, Mom," they said. Right. If it's really about family, why does it start with a demand? Behind me, someone cleared their throat. It was Camilla, my sister-in-law. She came even though she lives 2 hours away. She leaned in as I sat back down, muttering, "Just one thing. You okay? You look like you've left your own body." She wasn't wrong. I felt small, like I'd let something slip years ago and this was the price. I didn't cry. I just unclipped my pen and started writing down everything he said. Next was their financial exhibit. I was ready to see what they left out. I found it on the kitchen counter, wedged between the property tax letter and an old grocery receipt. A yellow folder, faint coffee ring on the corner. Inside, one form, my handwriting, blue ink, dated May 12th, 2022, right after my cataract surgery. Ryan had handed me a pen in the recovery chair. I still remember my eyes burning and the hallway spinning. "Just temporary stuff, Mom," he said, "so I can help pay bills while you rest." I signed it. Honestly, I thought it was something for the pharmacy. I didn't even read the top line. Turns out it was a temporary power of attorney, giving him access to everything for limited medical hardship. But nowhere on that form did it say when it ended. He'd never mentioned it again. But now, sitting in court, it magically reappeared in their exhibit folder like a backup plan. I laid the form flat on the kitchen table and just stared at it. I could feel heat crawling up my neck. This wasn't trickery. This was strategy. Quiet strategy. And the worst part, it worked because I let it. I let the papers pile up. I let the online passwords change. I let them help. Ruth came over that afternoon. I handed her the folder. She flipped through the pages, then looked up. "You didn't revoke this." I shook my head. She didn't scold me, just said, "All right, we'll fix that now." You ever realize too late that your help was being used as ammo? If family loves you, why does love require a signature? Later that night, I called Camilla. She didn't say much, just Marion. "You gotta stop playing polite." I didn't answer. Because part of me was embarrassed. Not just about the form, but about how long I'd ignored that voice in my head. I think deep down, I was afraid if I revoked his access, I'd lose my grandson too. I pulled out a red pen from the drawer, circled the date, May 12th, 2022, circled it twice. Then I opened the file cabinet and started digging for the next thing I might have missed. She's never called me Mom, not once in 8 years. But on February 8th, just after 2 p.m., she called the bank. First National on Larchmont Avenue, said it was urgent estate prep and that I'd authorized her to inquire about the Merrill account ending in 1947. I got the call from Emma, the branch manager. She's known me since Arthur and I opened our first joint CD there. Emma didn't bother with pleasantries. Just said, Mrs. Lorne, did you authorize a woman named Genevieve Lorne to ask about your investment account? I stood frozen in the cereal aisle at Safeway. Cereal box in hand. Couldn't even remember why I went there. I told her no. Emma paused. That's what I figured. She got testy when I said we'd need something signed. She hung up fast, then one more line low. You should check the beneficiaries on that account. Just in case. I drove home with half the groceries I meant to get. Spilled milk in the trunk, didn't care. Logged in, pulled the statement. Nothing had moved yet, but that wasn't the point. The point was she felt entitled enough to try. If she really saw me as family, why didn't she call me first? When I asked Ryan that night just to see how he'd spin it, he laughed. Said she was just trying to be helpful. It's normal to plan ahead. I looked at him and said, if she trusts me, why is she calling behind my back? He rolled his eyes like I was being dramatic. Later, I called Camilla. She just said, you're not crazy. She's poking around to see what's worth fighting for. I hate that I almost let it slide, that I told myself maybe it was a misdial, that I didn't want to rock the boat before Jacob's spring break visit. I printed the call log, stapled it to my folder. Then I opened my cabinet to check the account paperwork, wondering what other cracks I'd missed. It was March 2nd, around 11:40 a.m. I was looking for a light bulb in the garage cabinet when I found the envelope. Beige, slightly curled, tucked behind a box labeled Xmas Cords. Written on the front, in Arthur's neat block letters, if needed. No date, no explanation. Just that. I brought it inside, sat at the dining table, hands still dusty, and opened it slowly. Inside a copy of our original will from 2014, before the revised one that Ryan claimed Arthur signed just 2 months before he passed. This version had Arthur's signature, the notary stamp, and one handwritten line at the bottom. Everything remains with Marion. Period. I didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. I remember looking out the kitchen window at the neighbor's Honda Odyssey, pulling in, trying to stay calm. The original will had been replaced later, supposedly updated for efficiency, at Ryan's suggestion. I never saw the changes. They told me not to stress that it's all standard stuff. If it's all standard, why was this version hidden, where no one could reach it unless they knew to look? I called Ruth. She came over within the hour, still in her lunch break clothes, and flipped through the pages twice. Then she looked at me and said, "This changes the entire timeline. You sure you want to use this?" I didn't answer right away. Just said, "I'm sure I'm tired of being lied to." Truth is, I hated that I hadn't looked sooner, that I'd been so caught up in missing Arthur, I didn't double-check what Ryan and Genevieve rushed me through. Maybe I wanted to believe they had good intentions. Maybe I just didn't want to start a war. Camilla texted later, asking how I was holding up. I replied with a photo of the envelope and just wrote, "He tried." But Arthur knew I didn't file anything yet. I scanned it, sent it to myself, then saved a hard copy in the blue accordion folder right under the power of attorney revocation. And then I opened the closet and started looking for the old bank passbook Arthur gave me after we sold the cabin. I walked into Ruth's office on March 6th, just after 3:30 p.m. She didn't look up right away, just pointed to the chair across from her desk and said, "You sure it's time?" Not a hello, not a coffee, just that. I nodded and placed the folder down, the one with Arthur's will, the old passbook, and a printed screenshot of the email I sent myself. She read in silence. Every page, pen tapping against the armrest. Then finally, "They'll try to claim the updated will overrules this one. I knew that. That's why I came, to check if what I had still held weight." Ruth pulled out a legal pad and started outlining next steps. Timeline, witnesses, sequence of ownership. She didn't ask about feelings. That's not what I came here for. You don't go to court hoping people tell the truth. You go with documents that don't blink. I asked her, do we wait or do we confront now? She looked at me dead serious. We let them go first. Let them say what they came to say. Then we show what they didn't expect. Here's what still stings: I had that will in my house the whole time. I was the one who filed it away. I was the one who agreed to trust Ryan with the details when Arthur passed. Not because I believed Ryan knew more, but because I didn't want to seem controlling. I thought if I stepped back, they'd step up. They did. Just not how I hoped. At one point, Ruth stopped writing and asked, "Did you ever sign a waiver of inheritance?" I froze. What, anything waiving your rights to contest changes? I swallowed hard. I'll check. If family means trust, then why do they need to prepare for court before calling me? Ruth looked at me before I left. Just said, don't be polite in court. Be exact. I took the elevator down alone, watching floor numbers blink, thinking about the dinner they invited me to next week. Something told me it wasn't just dinner. It was Sunday, March 10th. Dinner at their house, 6:30 p.m. Sharp. Ryan had just replaced the tile in their kitchen. $820, he said proudly, and wanted to show it off. The whole place smelled like rosemary and garlic. Genevieve wore heels inside. Too much perfume? The kind that lingers on fabric. I brought a lemon pie from Carson's Bakery, still warm in the box. Ryan poured me wine before I even sat. Mom, you always say no, just have half a glass. I took it, nodded, smiled. Genevieve passed me the roast like this was a holiday. Small talk compliments their son Jacob, showing me a school project about bridges. Then Ryan cleared his throat. So, Mom, there's something we wanted to talk to you about. Of course there was. He slid a folder across the table. It's just a draft. Nothing urgent. But if you ever decide to simplify ownership, this would just make things smoother. I opened it. A quit-claim deed. It would remove my name from the house Arthur and I bought in 1992. Simplify for who I asked. Genevieve jumped in. It just avoids probate mess, you know. Protects everyone. I looked at the paper, then at both of them. And if it's so safe, why do you need me to sign it now? No one answered that. Camilla had warned me about moments like this. She said, watch how fast kindness comes when there's something to gain. I brushed past it. I wanted to believe dinner was dinner. Truth, I felt stupid. Stupid for wearing earrings, for thinking maybe this was just reconnecting, that maybe they missed me. But of course not. It was packaging. If it's just paperwork, I said, then it can wait. Ryan looked disappointed. Genevieve smiled too quickly. Of course. Just thought we'd be proactive. I wiped my hands with the cloth napkin. Folded it back into a square. Send me the draft, I said. If I'm going to read it, I'll read it on my own time. That night I didn't throw the paper away. I kept it, right under Arthur's will. Then I opened my laptop to double-check the Merrill account beneficiary line. It was Tuesday, March 12th, just before 9 a.m., when my phone buzzed while I was rinsing a mug in the sink. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then a message came through. Hey, Mrs. Marion. This is Luis, the guy who does your hedges. I think my camera caught your son talking the other day. I stood there, with the water still running, mug half soapy heart starting to thump for no clear reason. Luis has one of those small security cameras clipped under the eave near the side gate. He installed it after someone stole his tools last year. He sent the clip a minute later. Grainy. Side angle. Ryan pacing near my fence phone to his ear, voice clear enough. Just keep the pressure on. She'll give in. She always does. He wasn't whispering, not even close. Like he assumed the yard was empty and I was already folded. I sat down at the table and watched it twice. 3 times. Each time felt worse, not because of what he said, but because of how certain he sounded. Like this wasn't a conversation, it was a plan. I thought about the dinner, the folder, the tone he used when he said, "Simplify." If this was really about family, why did it sound like a campaign? If he believed I was doing fine, why was there pressure at all? I called Camilla and played the clip. She didn't say much, just, "Wow. He really thinks you're predictable." That hurt more than the words in the video. I hated that she was right. I hated that I'd trained him to think patience would outlast me. Luis texted again, nervous now. "Sorry, ma'am. Didn't mean to get involved." I typed back, "You did the right thing. Thank you." And I meant it. This wasn't gossip. It was timing. I felt a wave of shame hit me then. Not for Ryan, but for myself. For the times I'd stayed quiet to keep the peace. For telling myself I didn't want to make things awkward before Jacob's visit. I saw it now. Silence hadn't kept anything safe. It had made me easy. I saved the video, sent it to Ruth, then deleted it from my phone. March 14th. 10:42 a.m. Courtroom 3C. I remember the exact time because the bailiff had just adjusted the mic in front of me and I caught the clock above his shoulder. Ryan sat across from me in a navy jacket, one he only wears for official things, job interviews, bank meetings. Now this. Ruth had told me to keep it short. No speeches. No outbursts. Just facts. When they gave me the chance to speak, I didn't stand right away. I took a sip of water. My hand shook just a little. Then I turned and looked straight at my son. "Did you or did you not try to access the Merrill Lynch fund under my name in February?" You could hear a pin drop. Ryan blinked. His lawyer shifted in his seat. I kept my eyes on my son. Not mad, not emotional, just watching. Ryan leaned into his mic. "No, I didn't. That's not accurate." His voice cracked just slightly. I didn't respond. I just turned my face back to the judge and folded my hands. If it's not true, why did the bank call me? Why is there a copy of the recorded inquiry with a timestamp, a location, and Genevieve's voice on it? If you're really trying to protect me, why are you using my name when I'm not in the room? The judge glanced at the exhibit list. Ruth quietly stood. "We'd like to submit a supporting document, time-stamped February 8th at 2:13 p.m., including a customer service call record from First National." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Behind me, Emma from the bank had been waiting just in case. She leaned forward and whispered, "Still want me to testify?" I shook my head. "Not yet." The truth is, I hated how calm I felt. Like part of me had rehearsed this moment in my head too many times. And I hated that Ryan couldn't even look me in the eye when he lied. I wasn't angry, I was embarrassed for both of us. The judge looked at me for a long second. I nodded once. Ruth stood, and the room shifted. Next came the financial exhibits. I already knew which page would make them nervous. I stood slowly. My knees ached not from fear, just from being 72. The folder was already in my hand. Ruth didn't need to nod. We'd agreed on this the night before, sitting at her kitchen table next to a half-eaten rotisserie chicken and 2 mugs of cold coffee from 9 p.m. I walked to the center of the courtroom folder tight to my chest like armor. The judge looked up. Ryan glanced at Genevieve. She crossed her arms. Ruth stayed seated. They all thought I'd give a speech, or cry, or beg. Instead, I opened the folder and placed the full original will down on the table in front of the judge. One page had Arthur's signature in blue. Another had the special clause with my name spelled in his all-capital handwriting. I looked at the judge. My voice was quiet, but steady. "This one stands." 10 seconds passed. No one moved. No one breathed. You could hear someone's shoe squeak against the floor behind me. Ryan's lawyer shifted. Genevieve leaned forward like she didn't believe it. I didn't say more, because I didn't need to. This wasn't a performance. It was paperwork. The will was dated January 6th. I had it notarized, scanned, verified, twice. Arthur's note was stapled inside. Not poetic, just precise. In the event of legal challenge by Ryan, all privileges are revoked. Margaret decides. The judge ran a finger across the seal. Then he looked up and said nothing. Just stared at Ryan like he wanted to ask, "Why did you push it this far?" And honestly, I wanted the same answer. If you trusted me, why try to declare me incompetent? If we're family, why bring strangers to attack me behind me? Ruth whispered. Well done. Then louder she added, we rest. But inside, I didn't rest at all, because in that silence, I felt something break, something I won't get back even if I win. I kept my eyes on Ryan, and he kept his eyes on the floor. Not once did he look at the will. Not once did he look at me. And then the judge finally spoke. But by then, I already knew what the next page said. They walked out first. Ryan didn't look back. Genevieve kept her eyes on her phone like it was more important than the room we'd just been in. It was March 15th, a little after noon, and the hallway outside courtroom 3C smelled like old paper and floor cleaner. People brushed past us, cases still open, voices low. Life kept moving. Ours didn't. Ruth packed her files and touched my elbow. I'll send the order this afternoon, she said. That was it. No celebration, no speech, just paperwork. I nodded. My legs felt hollow like I'd walked too far on bad shoes. Outside, Camilla waited by the bench near the elevators. She hugged me once tight. Then she said, "You did what you had to do." I wanted to argue. I didn't. I just felt tired. The kind of tired that sits behind your eyes. On the drive home, I kept replaying the look on Ryan's face. Not anger, not sadness. Distance. Like he'd already stepped into a version of his life where I didn't exist. I told myself it was better this way, that boundaries matter, that adults make choices. But the truth is uglier. I kept thinking about Jacob and whether this meant birthdays would go quiet, whether I'd traded peace for silence. If family means protection, why did I have to protect myself from my own son? And if I was really wasting everything, why did they fight so hard to take it? I pulled into my driveway just after 1:30 p.m. The house looked the same. Blue shutters. Weeds near the mailbox I'd meant to pull. I sat in the car longer than I needed to, forehead resting on the steering wheel, feeling stupid for hoping the win would feel bigger. The next morning at 6:15 a.m., I brewed coffee and stood at the counter listening to it drip. No messages, no calls. The house was quiet in a way it hadn't been in years. I took the mug to the table and opened the envelope from the court. The paper said I was right. The silence said something else.